Were there any recent changes or updates to the H-1B registration lottery process that impacted employers and applicants this year?
So in our perspective, the two biggest changes that occurred this year for our clients as well as our legal teams was the first was the change in the random selection process. In previous years, each employee beneficiary could leverage multiple job offers for multiple opportunities in the random selection process. This year, USCIS, through a formal rulemaking process, implemented one beneficiary per registration process. In other words, no matter how many job opportunities each beneficiary employee may have with multiple employers or sponsors, they only had one single registration selection for, through the random lottery. So essentially one per person. And so that created in a lot of critics and participants in the H-1B lottery process a sort of equitable and level playing field. And I was welcome, and to the perspective of many of us, it was a welcome change, and it did seem to have a positive impact.
What were your observations on who was selected for the H-1B lottery?
For our firm, we saw about 1 in 5 or 1 in 6, so 15 to 18% selected in the lottery. We can't speak for other firms since the data is not out yet, but that was what we saw for the selection, and everyone was selected is very well qualified, so didn't notice any trends saying otherwise.
How does the lottery process differ for applicants with advanced degrees or those subject to the master's cap?
The master's cap, they have to have a master's or higher from a U.S. public or private nonprofit university. It's an extra 20,000 visas allocated for the master's cap, but they also get 2 bites at the apple if they do the master's cap, because they are also considered in the regular lottery. So even if they are not selected for the master's cap, they may still be selected in the regular lottery.
Do you anticipate additional rounds of lotteries later this year?
Very important question for most employers and the registrants who did not get selected in the lottery in the first round. So our guess is as good as yours. At this point in time, it's hard to say whether a second round will be conducted or not. Data from previous years suggests that last year, there was indeed a second round that was conducted in July. The year before, there was only 1 round. And in 2021, there were actually 3 total rounds of the lottery. And how USCIS decides to conduct a second round is based on the number of applications it receives from the first round selections. So if it receives a sufficient number of applications by June 30th to fill in all the visa allocations, then there's unlikely to be a second round in July. But if it does not receive sufficient applications, because some employers may decide not to move forward with an H-1B filing for somebody who's been selected, or the individual, for some reason, may not qualify for an H-1B once a more detailed assessment of their qualifications or the position is done, then there is a possibility that USCIS will have still some visa numbers left over, which they would be able to then conduct a second lottery for. I do want to caution all employers and hopeful employees that the chances of getting selected in the second round are lower than in the first round, because A, the number of visas is very limited, and you still have to compete with all of those registrations that were not selected in the first round.
Can you provide examples of any common challenges or technical issues that employers may have encountered during the registration lottery process, and how can they be addressed?
I do have to obviously mention that USCIS is trying its best to make this process as efficient as possible, yet there's always these teething issues that arise every time they bring in changes into the system. For example, this year they introduced what's called an organizational account for the employer as well as the legal representative, and those accounts needed to be linked. A lot of employers reported difficulty with setting up these accounts in the absence of clear instructions from USCIS, because the instructions appeared too convoluted for them, or when they were trying to set up the account, they were encountering error messages, which obviously gave them a cause for concern, which then led to them contacting their legal representatives to help them set up the accounts. It was a very time-consuming effort to just set up an account. While the registration process itself is very simple and involves filling out just 2 applications if a legal representative is involved, at the end of the day, there were glitches reported in the system when somebody was trying to either submit a registration or a payment to USCIS for the registration. So we're hoping that USCIS is able to address these glitches in the future, since it caused a lot of anxiety for the employers and applicants alike, since they're not sure whether their registration went through or not.
How can or should USCIS change the registration process to help address current issues?
As I said, it's been a positive impact from most in terms of how USCIS, through their rulemaking process and the powers they have to change the registration process to go from selection process based on positions versus a single beneficiary. With that in mind, I hope that USCIS looks to other areas where there has been frustration or inequity. For instance, I think a lot of us who work with H-1Bs on day to day take for granted how convoluted and difficult it is to understand what is a eligible and, more importantly, an approvable H-1B process. So I would look to USCIS to provide more information, or the same level of information they did regarding this year's process, as well as the fees and any other rules where they had FAQs and detailed information. I think it's surprising to most that there is not a comprehensive checklist. There is still a lack of information on the policy section regarding what USCIS looks for in H-1B for an eligible and approvable case. So I hope that USCIS simply provides more information on what is a workable H-1B, if for no other reason to make sure that people who register are ready to file an approvable case, and for those who are not ready to file, that they remove themselves from the selection process voluntarily to allow others to file for an H-1B registration, especially those who critically need it, such as those in F1 status looking for cap-gap authorization, where they can't wait for a second or subsequent lottery. And to that end, there is a larger inequitable issue, which I hope they understand and appreciate, that there are employees who have been applying for the H-1B lottery for multiple years, 3, 4, 5 times in a row. And the fact that there has been no recognition or acknowledgement regarding previous actions, time spent, and they are put in the exact same pool as someone who is applying for the first time, is incredibly frustrating moment. I cannot say how many times our clients have contacted us, absolutely heartbroken that they have made their final attempt after previous years, only for someone who got it right on the first time. It's not anyone's fault as far as the person who got the random selection the first time versus the person who's tried several times and unsuccessful. There is an acknowledgement that this is a random selection. However, because US has shown their ability to work within their framework, we hope that they address these and other issues that have been of great frustration for our clients.
Can you discuss the new online tool that USCIS has implemented as of April 1st for submitting filings?
This has been quite a busy year regarding rule changes, fee increase, other sorts of changes that USCIS has implemented for how petitions are filed, especially H-1B. This year in particular, they have, in addition to the online organizational accounts we talked about in previous questions, the big change is that H-1Bs are, many H-1B type petitions are now eligible to be filed online. So this is the first year this has been rolled out. This is the first month it's been rolled out. It's been live since April 1st. The USCIS is eager to incentivize clients to file H-1Bs online. To make it clear, paper filings are still accepted, and for the most part, they will probably be the majority of filings going forward. But USCIS is clear that they want to make this process as attractive as possible from an efficiency perspective and even from a cost perspective, as there is a small nominal discount for filing a case online, about a difference of $40, $50 versus filing it through the typical paper-based filing. We are eager and looking forward to seeing more data as it arises regarding client experience and legal practitioner experience using the new online system. And so we welcome you all to check back with VisaNation and our legal team as we receive more information. And if you have any questions, concerns about implementing the online system for your case types.